Yo, man. Boom, it's Rusty. It is Tuesday morning. I don't know why I said it like that, but that's what we're doing today. So it's Tuesday morning. I have a special guest today, and I'm just going to get right into it because I don't want to do anything else and do it any other way. I want to just get right in. I'm going to go start asking. Boom, boom, boom. We have Bessie McIntosh right here, right now. How you doing?
Good morning, Rusty. I'm doing really well. Thank you for having me today.
You're welcome. As you can tell, there's been some coffee in my diet this morning. So, um, good. Okay. Yeah, we're on the same page. And are you drinking coffee or tea or
I
alcohol or
I am. I switched to coffee this morning. I started out with a cup of guayusa and I felt like I needed the coffee.
what is guayusa?
A guayusa is a caffeinated tea out of Ecuador. I was introduced to it by some shamans, the Sequoia shamans. Has as much caffeine as coffee, twice as many antioxidants, but it has a lot of amino acids like lutein that calms the mind. So you end up being caffeinated but calm, if that makes sense. So calm energy. But this morning I just wanted to have that like really intense, like excited feeling, obviously, because I needed to match your energy, I see now.
Right, because my energy is never like this. So right now it's up a little bit. Yeah, I
Good.
don't know. I got that I don't know. I got some Caribbean coffee. I don't know. They got me amped, I guess. But uh they're not my sponsor, so I'm not going to mention their name. So
Yeah.
um yeah, we'll get to that later. So you're a healer of sorts, is that correct?
I
Um
I am a healer of sorts.
so how about you tell me a little bit about that?
Well, I have been trained in reconnective healing, which we're probably not going to talk a lot about with today. But what I've discovered in the last maybe 3 years, Rusty, is that my energetic signature is very healing, and it's literally my job to get it out to as many people as possible. And over the years, I have kind of stumbled into creating a line of biohacking products. And on a very high level, I realized that really it's like my energetic signature being in these products and getting into people's body that literally flips on people's DNA. So you went like right to like the highest, the highest affirmation, the highest question you can ask with this. So that's pretty cool that you did that.
Well, I figure get right into it. What are we gonna do? That's easy to, move along after you get that going and, put out into the world. So then you are um so okay, what was the part you said you didn't want to get into? Or you wouldn't have time to get into?
It's called reconnective healing. It's a
Let's
type
get
of
into reconnective healing.
all right, let's do it. So it is a type of healing modality. I'm sure you're familiar with Reiki.
Correct? Yep.
Okay, so the easiest way to explain reconnective healing is when you're dealing with any kind of energetic healing, you're dealing with information, you're dealing with light coding, right? So with Reiki, if you look up into the universe and maybe you grab a color spectrum, maybe Reiki is blue, you grab down blue, and so you're utilizing the information in the spectrum, and it's super effective. So you can just like go in and you're using your Reiki and it's super effective. But what reconnective healing is, instead of just being able to reach out into the universe and grab one spectrum or one light coding, you're grabbing the entire light coding. So it's like grabbing the entire rainbow instead of just one spectrum of the rainbow. And so it's really effective. I mean, I think I don't know, it was interesting to practice that. I practiced that about 7 years ago, and I practiced it for about 5 years.
So then what is the difference then between that and I mean, what extra benefits do you get when you gather I'm trying to think of how many colors are on the rainbow, 7 or 8?
Yeah, I mean,
Roy
there's
G.
probably
Biv.
infinity. We're only able
Ah,
to
there you
perceive so
go.
many colors.
There you go. Okay, so then with that, then what is the benefit of being able to have the infinite amount of colors as opposed to one color of what you're able to work on and heal and improve on?
Right. Well, with Reiki, it's like you're almost like a conduit. You're bringing down the information, you're processing it through your body, you're using different symbols, and then you're working on the person. So it's like the energy is coming through you. With reconnective healing, it's more the practitioners merging their aura with their client, and you're almost just like being like, hello, we're over here, we'd like some attention, please. And then all of that information comes down into both of you, and then it just balances everything that needs to be balanced. So there is a Dr. Eric Pearl was the one that was informed that it was his job to bring this modality to the planet. And he's worked with researchers from all over the globe to show the effectiveness of this. So yeah, so I mean, it just basically balances whatever needs to be balanced in your body.
So how'd you stumble into it?
I had a girlfriend at the time. I had a tragedy happen in our family, and a girlfriend at the time wanted to gift me a session and kind of help me through my grief. And after one session, I just felt incredible. I was like, what is going on here? So I immediately decided to do like the reconnection, which is just a 2-part series that connects your meridian points to the ley lines of the earth and the grid lines of the universe so that your torus is fully functioning. Your torus is kind of like the electrical system of your body. And at some point in our history and time, we were disconnected from our energy source, which is the earth and the universe. So this just like reconnects you back to that. So your torus is fully functioning. It's like plugging into the electrical system. All of a sudden, that part of your body is working properly. So I went ahead and did that. And then I was like, wow, that was some pretty incredible shifts. So then I jumped on an airplane like 2 weeks later and met Dr. Eric Pearl in Houston, Texas, and was trained by him, and then started a practice and did that practice for about 5 years. And then at one point in time, I realized, I think it was when COVID started, I realized that whatever it is with me and my mission on this earth, it's great meeting with people one-on-one and healing people one-on-one, but that's not what I was here for. I'm here to reach out and actually touch more people. So at that time, I was working on a couple of different formulas, and then I decided to go ahead and let go of that practice. It was taking too much time, and just put myself into what I'm doing now.
So then, okay, so what is the effectiveness? Does it change if you're talking with somebody online as opposed to having them in your direct contact physically? Is there a difference in that, or is that just
There's actually not, because at this point we're kind of tapping into quantum physics, and yeah, and it just is. So it's like I can actually, as a practitioner, I can have you, Rusty, go and pick a time like 3 o'clock today. I'm going to ask you to go lay down on your couch, and I'm just going to go ahead and do the work for you. And the thing with that is like all of this is actually instantaneous. So that happens in real life too. So when we're sitting here talking about this, like it could be in person, it could be over online, it could be something sent remotely. Or it could be something that's like, putting your coffee, like the energetics of your coffee. Every single person that was in the process of growing the coffee bean, processing the coffee bean, roasting the coffee bean, packaging the coffee bean, putting it on the shelf at your grocery store, and then like you actually taking it out of your cabinet. Every single person has an energetic signature, and that particular bag of coffee has been imprinted with all of that. So yeah. So I mean, that's something to really think about when you're going into quantum physics, like how entangled all the energy really is.
so then with that, is there a certain I mean, so like if you're telling somebody, okay, be on the couch at 3 p.m., are you getting hold of them at 3 p.m., or are you doing the energy work yourself, and then it just at 3 p.m. they're instantaneously feeling it or realizing that it's coming into them?
Yeah, that was my experience when I was practicing reconnective healing. Is when I did remote healings, I would set times with people because I would like them to lay down. I would like them to relax, and because their job is really just to like clear their mind and receive. And then afterwards, I would call them and do like a little debriefing. And I was just like, okay, so what did you feel? What did you notice? What came up for you? And really, that part isn't even necessary when you're talking about energy healing. That's more to bypass the mind and the ego to help you believe that, like, oh, an experience really happened, because our minds are so powerful. Whatever we believe is absolutely true. Like, we are
Sure.
powerful creators. We're co-creators with the universe. So anything that you believe is absolutely true. So if you go lay on the couch at 3 o'clock and you have a session with somebody, and then you're like, oh, nothing happens. Well, you're absolutely right.
Yeah.
Right.
One of
But
my
if
one of
you
my
but if
other
you felt it and you're just like, absolutely, I noticed a shift, something happened. Oh, you're absolutely right. And that's going to, just keep building upon itself.
one of my other co-hosts, Casey, says that we're all gods and we can program ourselves however we want to be. I mean, and so
Yeah.
so what's the way to get people to get into that relaxed state? Because like I'm a hypnotist, and so are you getting people, like you're telling them to sit on the couch and relax? Like, what are you doing to have them relax? Because I mean, that could be, I don't know. I don't know. For some people, maybe nerve wracking that you don't know what kind of stuff's gonna be coming in. Are they just expecting it to be, know that it's gonna be positive and that relaxes them with the thought of that, or are they relaxed other ways? Are you taking them into some guided meditation or
Mm.
deep breathing or whatever it may be?
No, at the time when I was practicing that, Rusty, I just think that people were drawn to me for whatever reason. And so there was already a level of trust. And it was just like, just lay down, just breathe, try to clear your minds, and just receive and notice what comes up. And then whatever comes up, don't judge it. Just be like, oh, okay, there it is. Let it go. See what else comes up. So I just think that there was probably a level of trust there. And like, as a human, when you say yes to something, in your gut if it's going to be positive or negative. So if
Right.
there's something that's always positive, like you just know. So there's just a level of trust there, even if you don't know the person, like your gut knows what you're getting yourself into. So it's
Sure.
always just best to, trust your gut. Now with people for relaxation, I just work on the physical, emotional, spiritual, and mental bodies. And I mostly focus on the physical because I know that the emotional and spiritual bodies, they're going to pick up on these vibrations and these energetic signatures, regardless if you're aware of them or not. So that kind of stuff works on a level that you don't even have to be aware of. You don't even have to be open to it. You don't even have to say like, I give permission to that, because your higher self is already in integrity and already knows exactly what it's doing on that level. So in that sense, when I ask someone to relax, I will take them through a meditation, because I think your co-host is absolutely right. It all starts with the mind, and we only are using about 5% of our conscious mind to make decisions. Most decisions and most things that are happening in our life come from the 95%, the subconscious or unconscious mind. And all of that has been programmed most likely before the age you were 7. And since then, everything that's happened in your life has just been a reinforcement of that programming since before you were 7. So, of course, you want to relax somebody, you're going to want to start with like the mind and be like, hey, okay, let's plant these ideas. Let's calm you down, work with the nervous system, bring a level of calm so that you can focus and do whatever work it is you're doing, regardless if it's energy work or reprogramming, like you're working with hypnotherapy. That's a modality to reprogram that subconscious, or whatever else you might be doing.
Yeah. So if with that, are you getting so like are when people are doing this, are they remembering every bit of it, or is it just, are they writing it down when they're doing this, or is it just they go through it in their head and whatever it is, they go through it and access it and like you're saying, just sort of realize that it's there and process it? Is that kind of what's happening, or are they, taking notes like I got this going on, or what happens there?
No, when I practice that, and practitioners of reconnective healing now, that happens more in the debriefing process. So mostly people are just laying back and relaxing and receiving and noticing, what's happening in their body. And then afterwards in the debriefing process, I will ask like, okay, what sensations have you had? What came up for you? And just kind of like reinforce that. So I'll write it down for them. And then one of the things I'll ask them to do afterwards is, not so much notice, what's changed, but notice what's missing. So for a lot of people, like, let's see. So like for a lot of people, I would say at the time, gosh, it's been so long. I would say for a lot of people, they would just, after they would go over the course of a few weeks, they would just notice what's missing, So it would be like, for me personally, what was missing was the intense grief I was feeling. What was missing was like maybe some fear of living my life because I was, had fear coming up and holding me back from the death of my family members. And so it was like kind of what was missing. And then once I got to see like, oh, that's missing, that means it was kind of taken away. And now there was space open for other things to flow in and for me to be able to operate in my life, then that's where people would really find some success. And it was really different for everybody. I'd have people who would come in with like hip pain and then their hip pain would be gone. They've been dealing with it for 20 years. Or I'd have people come in with like something like with me, where they were just had such intense grief that was suffocating them. And it was just like gone.
I mean, yeah, you can't beat that. Like it's
No.
pretty impressive. There's not a lot of things you can do that. You can't go in and take a pill and do that. I mean, a lot of people would pay a lot of money for that, and a lot of people should. I mean,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
it's something that's well worth every bit of it, And then with that, do you have anybody that so are they telling you what they want to get out of it right away, or
Nope,
um
I have no when I was practicing that, and I mean, and I think a lot of that work really helped to build what I'm doing now. But when I was practicing that, absolutely not. I didn't want to know anything about the person. I didn't want
okay,
to know anything. I just wanted it to be blind. And that's how those practitioners are trained, is you just want, it's not coming from you. It's coming straight from the universal source. So you just want kind of a blank palette. I don't need to hear the story. Don't really need to process it with anybody. It's just let the energies come in, do what's appropriate for them, and then move them along. So you could have, I did have one really fun, man, I can say I worked with. So he came in to see me for migraines, and we did about 3 sessions. And with reconnective healing, it's only suggested that you do 3 sessions. You really don't need any more than that unless something super traumatic happens in your life again. And he came in for migraines, and we worked with him, and his migraines just were not going away. And he wasn't very happy with me, and he was calling me consistently, and just the things that could be said from something that like, hey, you didn't heal me. And I'm like, I don't get to choose what is healed. Like maybe your migraines are here to teach you a lesson, and that you're not learning the lesson. Like that has nothing to do with me, but I can guarantee something was healed. So what was it? Nothing's been healed. My migraines are still here, whatever. Okay. So about 7 months later, this gentleman calls me and he's like, I have to apologize. And I'm like, what's up? And he's like, I went in for an opiscopic surgery on my knee. And when I went in for pre-op, they looked at my knee and they're like, I think we might have the wrong knee. So they looked at the other knee and they're like, you don't need a surgery. And the guy's like,
whoa,
no, that's impossible, And so he had actually called me months later and just like apologized and said, you're right. I still have terrible migraines, but somehow, some way, I didn't need knee surgery anymore. So how cool is that? And I'm like, yeah, I didn't get to
very
choose that.
cool.
I had no idea you had a knee problem. So with that, it's just like whatever is appropriate for you. And I don't know that. I mean, you might not even know what's most appropriate for you, but your higher self knows and the universe knows.
Right.
So,
So
so
then
yeah.
do they I mean, so like with that, are people coming in for one thing that they're thinking in their head, like they really want to get rid of these migraines, but then like the bigger problem being the knee injury, um and having to do that, something that could also be attributing to the migraines as well. With that being a bigger problem, does that happen often, or is that sort of an anomaly, or what?
I probably think it happened often. When I was doing that practice, a lot of people, I would only see them once and they never came back because they received what they needed to receive in that session. So for me, with what I have going on in my world, it was great. I was happy to help those people, but I just knew intuitively that whatever my mission is in this world, it was a little bit bigger than that. It was a little bit bigger than just helping people one-on-one.
Okay. So then let's get into what you're doing now.
Sure. So where do you want me to start?
Let's talk about, well, I guess from you transitioned from what you were doing there uh, to what was the next part
Um,
from what we were
so
just talking about? What did you transition to?
So I'm an empty nester. I have a couple of children. They're 25 and 20. And about 5 years ago, my son, he was suffering from intense anxiety. And, kids, they don't like their woo woo mama being woo woo, right? So it's like, so the reconnective healing, he's like, I do not want any part of that, even though I knew intuitively it would help him. It's like, I don't want that. And I'm like, well, what do you need, honey? Like, what can we do to help you with this? Because I just happen to use Western medicine and pharmaceuticals as a very, very, very last resort after you've exhausted every single resource I can find. And so my children know this. And so he was just like, well, Mom, I just want to try CBD. And I'm like, okay, great. And I didn't really know where to start with that, especially because it was like it was an emerging market. I don't even think it was fully legal in Utah at the time.
Oh yeah, you're in
And
Utah.
I am in Utah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I forgot. Okay, there. Yeah, I got some other things I got to ask about.
Oh,
Okay.
good. I can't wait.
Yeah.
So at the time I was just like, okay, kiddo, well, he would trust me to find the best medicine for him. He knows that I'm just very particular in like what we put into our bodies and know that you have to like cleanse things out because our environment's so toxic. And you just got to have balance in the body if you're going to be healthy. Like you could play hard, but let's balance it out too, right? So I had asked my son, I was like, well, why don't you tell me what companies your friends are using and I will check into them for you. And I looked and I I didn't like what I found. Even to
As
this
far
day,
as
about 85% of the companies out there in this wild, wild west world of cannabinoids are kind of dirty. So at the time, I was just like, I'm only finding a couple of companies that check my boxes, and it was expensive. It was like $300 a month. And I'm like, oh, my background is also in sourcing. I used to have a honey company where I brought shea butter and honey from Ghana, Africa. We started a beekeeping co-op there. So I knew how to source. So I'm like, I could do this. I'm just going to go out into the world and make exactly what I need to make for my son. I'm going to make my own medicinal plant medicine for him, and I'm going to fix his anxiety. And so that's what I did. I went out there and I found like the highest quality, best integrity, helped the state go through their certification process because it was really new for our state. And I ended up with this beautiful product, double blind tested with a handful of my naturopathic type doctor friends, patients, and ended up with a formula that seemed to like blow everything else out in the water. And I'm like, great, that's all I needed. Give it to my son. It helped him. And then I ended up with a product. And then kind of through that time period, Rusty, I ended up having 3 doctors want to diagnose me with an autoimmune disease. And as you can imagine, I was like, no, thank you. That's not going to be my life. Thank you very much. Do not diagnose me. I'll figure it out. And so through that process, I started working with like Ormus and Shilajit and created a whole line of products really to heal myself. And about 4 months ago, I did some blood work and found out that I have 0 markers for this autoimmune disorder. So I'm good now. So I was able to balance my body, utilizing like really potent formulas that I created. And I just knew as a mom, if it took me this much work to find something good out there that would work. I mean, so many people out there are just going to want that, right? Like, I just want easy. I just want something I can buy. Like you were saying earlier, the magic pill, right? Like, I just want to go buy something that makes me feel better. So that's what I did. I created a line of products that people can take and they can immediately feel the effects and start balancing their life so they can let go of their stress, their anxiety, their pain, so that they can gain focus and clarity and up their energy. Because really, I just want to see everybody like step into their power and go out there and be badass.
yeah, that's a good thing. And I mean, not a lot of people get the ability to do that or the way to do it. So like with that, are you getting people Because I have a buddy there, who he has it at some malls. He has some, um, he has a CBD company, like, that he sells stuff at the malls. Where are you able to sell there?
So I do a lot of e-commerce, so online direct, which is great. I love being able
Way
to,
better.
yeah, directly be able to communicate with my customers, and I'm able to be here if they have questions, and I love that. I do love that one-on-one aspect. I'm also working with like a lot of holistic medicinal practitioners. So I have acupuncture offices, massage therapists, chiropractors, naturopathic doctors. I'm in a few day spas, a couple of med spas in California. And then now I'm just looking into going into some health food stores.
So what's going on in Utah? What are the regulations in Utah? Because like, is it like a 0.03% to be able to activate the cannabinoids?
Yeah, you do have to work with strains that are under the federal limit, which is 0.03% THC.
0.03?
Mhm.
Okay, not point 0.3.
I believe it's 0.03. I
Okay. Well,
might
either
want to
way.
look at one of my packages real quick and just
Huh,
look. No, you're totally right. It's 0.3.
okay.
Yeah,
Well,
wow,
either
you
way.
know. Yeah,
Well,
so
I've had to, yeah, I definitely gave a bunch of that a try. I tried a bunch of different ones.
and what did you notice?
Some were
Nothing?
good. Yeah, I mean, there were some that I liked better than others. I did get a kind of decent one out in Minnesota. Um, but then yeah, like when I don't know, but then I switched over to like I still use some CBD, but then I also have a vape pen and using the higher THC
Hmm.
method.
Yeah.
But but I mean, like the place there. So the shop, the what's it called? The dispensary that I'd go to there was the one that was near downtown up on State Street. I believe it's called Dragonfly
Yep, I
or
know the
something.
owners of that company. Yeah.
Okay, yeah, and I mean it. Yeah, I don't know, because then it sucks that they put them in a part of town that's like there's a bunch of you know, bunch of homeless people that hang out next to the place, and there's usually a lot of cop presence around there, and it makes it hard for someone to, especially someone who's wanting to, get feeling better, to be able to have like, oh geez, I gotta put my head down. But then so you're making it a lot more accessible for people to be able to, get kind of what they need, especially with being
Absolutely.
able to do it online
Oh,
and where you,
absolutely.
yeah,
And something to think about too is like you're using more of the medical marijuana dispensary products,
right,
which is great, but for and there's research coming out about this, especially for teenagers, is the high concentrate THC is just not good for developing minds.
yep,
And for most people, for a lot of people, it's too much. It's too
yep.
much. It's just too powerful, right? So if you're somebody who's dealing with a lot of pain, um, or like cancer or something, like absolutely go grab like a very, very high THC. Hopefully you have a high cannabinoid content in that as well. But for like the everyday person that's just like, oh my God, I'm stressed. Oh my gosh, I have so much anxiety. Oh my gosh, I cannot find a way to stay calm. Then just a high quality cannabinoid, CBD oil is probably the best thing you can put into your body. I have a theory to go along with this. So your nervous system includes an endocannabinoid system, right? And so your endocannabinoid system has these little receptors that just pull in cannabinoids, or what we know as CBD. And CBD is just one little molecule out of the cannabis plant. There is probably 100,000 of them. Like we don't even know. I know that researchers have only diving into about 5 to 8% of those little molecules within the cannabis plant. And so the big ones we know is like CBD, CBN, CBG, Delta 8's and one that people throw around, Delta 9, THC. So those are the big ones, but that's only barely a handful of what this plant really has. So you're going to want to look for a full spectrum. You want to find it
Absolutely.
super clean, right? Make sure that there's no heavy metals in there, make sure that there's no pesticides in there. One of the things that we did with our formula is, in the industry, they like to, in the marijuana industry and the CBD industry, they like to add MCT oil as the carrier, which is just a derivative of coconut oil, which is totally fine. Like, okay, that's fine. But for me, that felt heavy on the liver intuitively. So I chose to test out a cold pressed grapeseed oil.
Oh, okay.
And yeah, so that's what we ended up with our high content CBD. That's the carrier. And I don't know why. I'm not a scientist. But when I was doing the testing, I used 3 different carrier oils, MCT being one of them, and this grapeseed being another one. And when we tested it out with I used my friends who happen to be in the alternative medicine world, and we used their patients. So I've never met these people. And part of the criteria was they had to have used at least 5 previous CBD brands. And then they were given these 3 different formulas. Bar none, over 90% of them was like, this is the one. I feel this is effective. My hip pain's gone in a week. My anxiety like went down in 3 days. Like, oh, my depression, like I notice if I come off of it, my depression comes back. So I'm just staying on it. So it was just like bar none, like, wow. So I don't know if it's the cannabinoids, like something reacting with the grape seed, or if it's just, partially the omega-3s and 6s inside the grapeseed that's really giving people the boost. But either way, it's working, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So
So,
I tried.
so anyways, I'm so sorry. I kind of got off track there. So
No,
with this
that's
cannabinoid
good.
system, like, it brings in these little receptors need to be filled. And so what we have in the United States is we have a situation where we've gone generations without cannabinoids being in our diet. I'm not sure if you're aware, Rusty, but before the 1920s, agricultural animals were fed hemp. So our great-great-grandparents, they were ingesting cannabinoids from the meat they ate, from the dairy that they ate, and we haven't had that in our diets. And so now we are dealing with a array of different imbalances in the body, such as high anxiety, such as autoimmune, such as all these other diseases. So kind of my theory behind that is, let's see what happens when we fill everybody's cannabinoid systems up, those little receptors up with high quality cannabinoids, and see if some of these ailments start disappearing. So it'll be fun to see like 20 years from now if I'm right on that or not.
Yeah. So I tried Floyd's of Leadville, which is the one that he was a bicycle guy,
Mm,
bicycle racer guy. He has one, and then Select, that's out of Portland. I tried that one. Those are both pretty good, but I mean, it sounded like, but it doesn't, not quite everything that I need. Like I've had 3 knee surgeries and I got back pain all the time, and I mean, it's just something enough to keep it steady. I mean, I'm like not feeling great, but
mhm.
it's a lot better than it was. And so,
Oh, I'm so happy to hear that.
yeah, I mean, I don't know, because like, so when I was in Minnesota, uh, I was at the Mayo Clinic, and uh, I was their fucking lab rat. Like they pumped me
Oh,
full of so much stuff, and then I mean, they wanted me on, like, hey, muscle relaxers, stuff like muscle relaxers, pain pills. I'm like, no, I don't like this stuff. This is terrible. And like, um, yeah, I mean, I was feeling pretty crappy, and uh, what's the point of that? Like, and then taking those and waking up at 4 in the morning, like, oh, if it's 5 o'clock in the mornings is almost here. I can take my muscle relaxer again. And
mm,
I was just like, I can't do this stuff. Like, I need something different. And so that's when I was like, okay, well, because I hadn't, like, I don't know. I've been like, not, I haven't smoked weed or drank alcohol since like 2014. And then so like after um so then I busted my knee in 2017. And so like I was just like, had all this pain. Then I was just like, you know what? Screw it. Like, I'm gonna, nothing's helping. Like, maybe this will help. And then I was like, okay, well, this is
And it's
I'm
helped a little bit. Yeah.
yeah, I'm stupid for not doing this earlier. And
No, you're not stupid. It's just, it's hard when information isn't out there. I mean, you still have a huge section of the population that just thinks that this stuff is it's drugs and it's evil and,
yep.
don't touch it with a 10-foot pole. You have a lot of religions out there preaching that as well. When the fact of the matter is, it all comes down to plant medicine. This is what probably part of these plants is what made us human in the first place, like helped expand our consciousness. And it's so interesting to me that your body has the endocannabinoid system, and so like why weren't we taught that in school? Like we didn't know anything about that till a couple of years ago, and most people still don't know anything about it. So the idea that, nature has everything that we need, it's real. I mean, even pharmaceuticals are derived from, different plants that are like, oh, let's take this one molecule out of this one plant and then synthesize it. Why not just eat the plants? Like
plant.
it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. For your knee, and that's kind of like what my idea is like, it all comes down to the nervous system. It all comes down to inflammation in the body. Any kind of pain in your body, that's from inflammation. So we want to tackle that from the inside and the outside. So taking a really high quality CBD product, that's going to help from the inside. And then you might want something a little topical. So I have a product called Deep that has 3 different cannabinoids in it. And then every single ingredient in there is actual medicine. So there's like Douglas fir in there. Douglas fir is also an anti-inflammatory. So it's like, it's really cool. It's like a little spot treatment. You put it on, it's going to take the pain away for, maybe a day or two, but that's something to help. It's called Deep. It's just a little roll on.
So it's like like the deodorant stick kind of thing.
Kinda,
Like
it's actually more of like it's a little glass jar and it has a little roller ball on it. So you could just like,
okay. So
that's where I get my pain is my neck. So I'm like, one little strip there, but then like a little bit on the knee. It really helps because then you're targeting the pain, immediately. So you're getting some relief immediately. And then, as you're ingesting and you're working on the inflammation from the outside inside out, you're going to find some relief. But then with someone like you, or you're dealing with chronic pain, I'm so happy to hear that you're not drinking alcohol anymore. Bravo. That's a hard one. And that's such a big inflammation maker, right?
Yeah,
like it's terrible for your body.
Yep. And everything about it, your mind.
Oh yeah. I'm only 13 months into like refraining from alcohol. And I'm just like, God, why didn't I do this a decade ago? This is fantastic.
Yeah. I mean, I was 30 or 31, I think. And I was just like, well, yeah, I'm 32, maybe 32. I guess 32. I think I was 32. And I was just like, okay, well, yeah, I should have done this a long time ago and wasted a lot of time, a lot of stuff. And if I could tell people, like, I don't want to be the person, oh man, alcohol is bad, but alcohol really messes you up, like with even just a little bit. Like it's not
Even
good
just
for
a
your
little
body.
bit.
It's not your energy. Your energy is messed up completely when you drink alcohol. It just kills everything and makes it so dulled down. And
Well, we use it to cope, right? It's the one sociably acceptable drug that's allowed.
besides
So,
coffee
besides coffee and sugar. I mean,
and
sugar is
sugar,
probably actually
sugar,
worse than alcohol if
I
we
agree.
really want to get down to it. But
Yep.
but I'm addicted to sugar too. So I
Yep.
get it. There's definitely a sugar issue. But yeah, when we're looking at these things, like, our society is kind of rough. Like we have a lot of anxiety, we have a lot of stress, and there is going to be some kind of coping mechanism. And unfortunately, our society really pushes alcohol. So everyone feels safe utilizing alcohol as the coping mechanism. But when you look at our bodies, I mean, really, these bodies, they're just like these like bio machines, right? And so it's what chemicals you put in, you get an output. You put alcohol in, you're going to get a certain output. You put cannabinoids in, you're going to get a different output, right?
Yeah.
You refrain from sugar and gluten, you're going to get a totally different output. So someone like yourself dealing with like chronic pain, that's the first thing I would look at is I would be like, okay, let's talk about some of the different chemicals you put into your body, and let's remove the ones that are causing inflammation, and let's add the ones that are going to calm that inflammation and calm that nervous system. So when we're talking about chronic pain or stress and anxiety, people can't function when they're kind of all jumbled up with these feelings. Like you're in like flight or flight mode. Your nervous system doesn't know if there is a saber-toothed tiger chasing after you right this moment. And that's how most people are operating day to day, 24 hours a day. So, my goal is to help calm that nervous system so that you can, just start feeling better. And when you're feeling better, when you're not dealing with that constant pain being thrown at you, or constant anxiety or constant stress that you just can't manage, and we get you out of the flight or flight, that's when the magic starts happening. That's when someone can actually think and be like, oh, maybe I could go see someone like Rusty, and he can help me with, some of that subconscious stuff that we've been talking about, and
Yeah.
reprogram myself. But if you're like on a high level of pain, stress, or anxiety, you're not even thinking like, oh, maybe that will help me, right? So we need to
Right.
calm that down and get people to a centered place in order to even start making some of these decisions to help them be who they truly are, right?
Yeah. I mean, there's so much stuff that's, um, I mean, so many people that are just, yeah, constantly in fight or flight mode. And I mean, you don't make good decisions when you're in fight or flight mode. You're just acting out of instinct,
Mm.
without any repercussions of what's going to happen to the environment around you or yourself. And
Right.
that's really scary because there's a lot of people in this world that are on that frequency, and it's, you don't know. So you really have to, when you approach anyone or any situation, you kind of have to assume that the person or the situation or the person, I guess, is in fight or flight mode, and you need to not get them like to react in a certain way. You need to make sure that you're prepared for how they're going to react.
Yeah.
Um, and
And if you're in flight or flight, right? If you're in that
yep,
mode and you're coming up against somebody, that's I mean, that's kind of what we're seeing in our society right now, right? As everyone is just kind of interacting and exploding with each other. So there has to be some adults in the room.
yeah,
There has to be somebody in the room that has found a way to calm their nervous system, and you just be like a voice of reason. And so that's kind of where my job is at, is I'm calling out to people who are like, let's calm that down, because you're not going to figure out who you are and what you want to do on this planet and what you're supposed to be doing on this planet until that calms down. And I very much understand that. I think I probably lived in flight or flight until I was about 40 years old, so 40 years of my life, and
yeah,
that amount of stress and what the toll it takes on the body. There was obviously a reason why doctors were like, oh, you're showing all the markers for an autoimmune disease. It's like, oh, because you really have had 40 years of flight or flight. That's where you've been operating from. So that was a big wake up call for me to be like, oh, I need to deal with this. I need to figure out how to calm my nervous system and be the adult in the room. And then once I figured that out, all of a sudden my mission did come down to me. It's like, oh, well, this actually wasn't that hard. I mean, yeah, it was hard pulling together a brand and like formulas and all that and doing all the testing and all the things that go along with that. But when it comes down to it, the actual process isn't that hard. It's just like a simple, easy daily ritual, like pretty much like taking your vitamins, right? Just
right.
a few drops under the tongue, and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm so much more calm. And then what happens is you end up being more magnetic. More people want to talk to you. More people want to see what you're about. More people want to be like, hey, what are you doing? Do you think that would help me? And what greater joy is there than to be of service to somebody else? Because what it comes down to, at least what I've noticed in the world and figured out, Rusty, is that really all you have in this world, I mean, we could call it love, it's definitely love, but really all it is like, how can you be of service to other people? Like, how can you help other people? That's it.
Sure.
That's all we have. I mean, even when we're talking about having children, right? It's like at some point you're helping your child grow, thrive, do all the things, and then at some point it switches. And then it's like your child is helping you grow, thrive as a person, do all the things. It's so interesting. So even just like the idea of being a parent is like really all you're doing is helping a little human grow up. That's all you're
Yeah,
doing, you know. And
yeah,
so that's what we're doing. So how fun to be in a place where you're like, oh, I'm calm, I feel good. And then now I'm able to serve you. Like now I know, oh, you have knee pain. Oh, you have inflammation in your body. How can I help you, Rusty,
Yeah.
live a better quality life and get you to a place where you're like, oh my God, this is what I'm excited about. And this is what I want to share in the world. That's exciting to me. I want to see you light up with that, which
I
you already
like
have.
that.
I mean, you know exactly what you're doing. You're like, yeah, you're having me on your show today because this lights you up. So, you know, but I
Yeah, I
want to help
saw that
other
and I
people
was
do
like,
that.
yep, and that's what I need. I need someone to be able to tell it like that. And for whoever's listening out here, millions and millions of people are gonna need to know how to feel better. And that's kind of it's a good thing. You gotta feel good. You gotta feel good. You're gonna make other people feel good. Everything good's gonna start happening.
Yeah, but not just
Um,
how, but like how can we make it easier, right? Because let's face it,
sure.
people want easy. I want
Yeah,
easy. I
yeah.
make
I mean,
things
why
difficult, but I want easy. So yeah, let's make it easy. Like let's make feeling better easy. I can do that.
yeah. So okay, so uh where are you with so being in Salt Lake City, where are you with essential oils and stuff? Because I know that there is a very ingrained MLM structure of essential oils in the Salt Lake City area, as I could tell very much. But the one thing that was interesting to me was more people, it was a lot more men that had essential oils. I would go into Vasa, which is a local
Interesting.
gym there, and people would put it in the steam room. And so like it was weird. It made it really hard to breathe for me.
It was a little
But
too much.
yeah, I mean, it's a good thing, moderation, but you're not really supposed to be ingesting it. And it's also like, I don't know, because there's some benefits to it, but it's also that MLM mentality. And I don't know. I want to know how you felt about essential
Somehow,
oils.
yeah, somehow Utah is like the MLM capital of the
Well,
world. Oh my
maybe
gosh, it is.
it's built
It's
in.
crazy. It's pretty nuts.
Yeah.
Essential oils are they're plant medicine. They're concentrated plant medicine. So absolutely they could be good for you. But just like anything else, if it's not in moderation, it's
Yep.
poison, right? So
It's
you can drink way too much coffee and end up in the hospital. Like if you're drinking
right.
like 20 Starbucks a day loaded with sugar, I mean, even 5 Starbucks a day loaded with sugar, you're probably going to end up in the hospital within a month and be like,
Yeah.
what's going on with my body? It's like, well, you're drinking way too much coffee. Like, don't do that. So essential oils are also, I'm in that same realm. Like, absolutely, they're useful. I work with Ormus as well. And some of my products, I have an ohm spray and I have 6 different varieties. And with Ormus, that is, well, anyways, with those 6 different varieties of sprays, I do use mixtures of essential oils in there. Funny enough, it's not even a Utah company, it's a company out of Idaho where I buy my essential oils. And it's like a very small company and they do it all by hand and all the blah, all the good things.
Yeah.
But you're not drinking it, you're using it as, the scents and the sprays, like that's enough. Like that
Yep.
plant medicine is so concentrated, putting a little on your skin or sprayed it around you, that's all you need. You
Yeah.
don't necessarily need to be drinking it. However, there have been times in my life where I've had like massive sinus infection and the tiniest little bit of melaleuca oil on a spoon with purified water and rinse your nasal cavities with it kills bacteria like that.
Like,
Absolutely.
does it kill like all bacteria or just the bad bacteria or what? How's that?
Good question. I don't know.
Okay.
I just know that it works. All I know is like I was like sniffing it up my nose
Oh,
and gargling
like with
in
a
my
neti pot or
yeah.
something? Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, but very, very little. I mean, when we first heard about this, it was probably when we were in our 20s. My husband was like, "Oh, yeah," like pretty much like drops, like probably 4 or 5 drops of melaleuca oil on a
Yeah.
spoon with some purified water, and like snorted it up his nose, and it was
Oh,
way too much. He was like, "Ah," he was like, "It's so out." But you know what? His sinus infection was gone within like an hour. So
sure.
yeah, so I mean, if you want to like go that extreme, but for me, as I've gotten older, I've learned that less is more.
Right.
Kind of the same with like the CBD, like um, high concentrated CBD, tiny bit of THC. Less is more. You're going to
Yep.
find less anxiety, happening with that combination than if you are taking a really high THC product, right?
Right.
Like
And
it's
like,
just less is more. So just
yeah,
I don't know about the whole MLM
well, I do.
thing.
I saw it quite a bit. I was only there for a year and a half. I saw um, quite a bit of it. And because I mean, so another thing, like with vitamin C or vitamin D, you take too much of that, that's not good for you. Like those airborne things, like you don't need that much vitamin C. Like that's going to make you sick. Like taking that much vitamin C at once, or the super tabs of vitamin D. It's like,
Well,
oh, you can only get. Go
that's
ahead.
interesting. So there's something being said there because I do work with a handful of naturopathic doctors, and
Uh-huh.
so you don't need that much vitamin C every day. Absolutely not.
Mm-mm.
But if you're starting to come down with a sickness, high
Yep.
dosing like a liposomal vitamin C is probably the best thing for you. And if you can afford it, go get yourself a vitamin C IV. I mean, they're throwing like 40,000 ICs of vitamin C in you, but that will up your immune system and knock out pretty much anything that you're dealing with. And I have a naturopathic doctor here too. He does IV therapy, and he's working with like cancer patients that don't want to utilize Western medicine. And that's part of it, is like huge amounts of vitamin C going into them every single day. So yeah, so again, like as medicine, but you're absolutely right. Like you don't need 10,000 IUs of vitamin C every single day.
Yeah.
Just take like a little, whatever's in your multivitamin, that's fine. But when you start getting sick, absolutely. And you
Yeah.
mentioned airborne, like, yeah, those are okay. But that you're right, they're not quite absorbing the same way liposomal vitamin C would absorb.
Yeah. And
So it is too much because it's not the right delivery method.
right. And um I mean, you're missing out on everything else that you need. And shoot, I had something, but whatever it was, it's gone.
Oh
But
no.
so
You get me talking. I'm pretty passionate. So when you get me
it's
talking, it's
good.
hard to stop me.
That's what I needed. And it so
Mm.
I mean, it must not have been too important. But so how are people gonna find your product? What are they gonna do? They're gonna be like, I really want to try this now because I need it because I feel like crap. I don't know how to make it myself feel better. I want to feel better. What do I do?
Easy. You just contact the Biohack Boss Babe on Instagram. So you can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, or YouTube at Biohack Boss Babe. There, I'm mostly just sharing easy daily rituals to help you feel better. So we're not just talking about like the physical products that you can ingest into your body, but I'm working on more like mindset, where you get your water, all the basics, sometimes nutritional, just like all the little life hacks that I have found that have been really helpful for me in my life and have been really helpful for my past clients and helpful for my family, all those kind of things. So you can follow me there. But then if you're interested in the products themselves, you can find them at merkabody.com.
How do you
And
spell that?
yeah, Merkabody. So that's off of the Merkaba. So that means light body spirit. And so Merkabody is working on your light body, your spirit body, and basically all your body is your physical body as well.
Cool. That's awesome. And
Thank you.
yeah, I'm gonna have to get some because I don't know. I have some like that's right down like by the front door. I have a little dropper thing that's just right there in the door. But I'd love to try something else. So I'm gonna have to
Yeah, we would love for you to try it,
yeah get hooked
especially the
and
deep. I think the deep is really going to help your knee. I think you're really going to enjoy a little spot treatment where you're like, "Ooh, my knee's hurting right now." And you rub a little on, and then you're like, "Wow, it's been 5 minutes and my knee doesn't hurt and I can walk." I mean, what does that do for your mental health when you're like, "Oh, my knee's not hurting and I can walk down the hallway?"
right. Yeah,
Yeah, it's good.
it's a huge bonus. So yeah, Bessie, thank you so much for being on, and yeah, really appreciate it. And thanks everybody else. Everybody else over there, yeah,
Everybody else, thank
whoever,
you everybody for
whoever's,
listening today. And Rusty, this has been such a fun conversation. Thank you so
yeah,
much for
you're
inviting me to
welcome.
your
Yeah,
show. I hope we talk again sometime.
thank you. We shall. And guys, that is the show, man.